Now let's bring in the customer CSV file. We are going to transform this data. There are several columns in this data that we do not need for the analysis we will show in our report. First, we will see how to use the tools displayed on the Home tab of the ribbon. The options shown on the Home tab are a sort of best of the tools shown on the other tabs in the ribbon. First, we will remove the columns we don't need. There are two ways to do this. We could select the columns we want to remove and then select Remove Columns in the Manage Columns group of the Home ribbon. We simply hold down the Control key while selecting the columns to select more than one column. Notice that it has added that step into the Applied Steps area of the Query Settings pane on the right-hand side of the screen. If we do not want that step, we can remove it by selecting the X on the left-hand side of the step. Alternatively, we could remove the unwanted columns by selecting the Choose Columns button in the Manage Columns group of the Home ribbon. This would allow us to choose the columns we want to keep and then select OK. You will notice that both of these buttons are divided into two sections. The upper section launches the default feature associated with the button. However, slightly different options appear if we use the bottom half of the button. On the Remove Columns button, the option is to remove all other columns. In other words, we could select the columns we wanted to retain and then delete all the others. On the Choose Columns button, the option is to go to the column. This will allow us to navigate to a particular column in our data. This is useful if our data has many columns, removing the need to scroll to locate a particular column. We want to remove the married status, total children, number of children at home, education, and homeowner columns from our data. The next step is to ensure that the correct data type has been assigned to each column. We can do that by looking at the icon in the left-hand corner of the title area of each column. Everything looks okay until we reach the customer postal code column. In North America, postcodes are generally numbers only. However, if we want to merge other country data with this information at some point in the future, we will need to assign a different data type to this column. We will change it to a text column ABC. It may ask us if we want to replace the current conversion or add it as a new step in the query. Because we will refresh our data in the future, we will choose to add a new step. This will add a step in the Query Settings pane, which means that when we refresh the data, it will ensure that this column is assigned the text data type. The next issue we may encounter is with the birthdate column. This information is from North America, the date is shown in North American format. However, if we are located in Europe, we would want the date to be in European format. We can change this very quickly. We use the Data Type button in the left-hand corner of the column title and select using Locale at the bottom of the drop-down menu. In the Change Type with Locale dialog box, we specify the original data type for the information in this column and which location it was formatted in. So, we will select Date in English, United States, for our column. Notice that it instantly reformats the date into European format. Of course, if you are not in Europe and your region's date is already shown correctly, you would not need to do this step. All the other columns look correct. Before we close and apply these transformations to our data, let's look at other actions we could perform on this data using the features on the Home tab of the ribbon. We can choose which rows we'd like to keep or remove in the Reduce Rows group. We can sort the data by a particular column in ascending or descending order in the Sort group of the ribbon. In the Transform group on the ribbon, we can split columns. This feature is excellent for separating data, for example, address information. Let's take a look at how this feature works. Selecting the column entitled Customer Address and then split the column, look at the various ways the column can be split. We are going to choose by digit to non-digit. This will separate the number part of the address from the road name. You can see that we now have these pieces of data in separate columns. Remember, if you don't want this step, simply select the X next to the step in the Query Settings pane to remove it. We can also group information. Imagine that we just want to know how many customers hold each type of membership card. That is the only information we need for our report. By selecting the Member Card column and then selecting Group By in the Transform group on the ribbon, we get a Group By dialog box that allows us to group by member card type and count the number of customers. We now get a table that shows how many customers hold each member card type. The member card types have a metal theme in their naming convention. However, there is a type of member card called normal. We should change that for our report. Let's change the name normal to copper. To do that, we select the member card columns and select the Replace Values button in the Transform group on the Home tab of the ribbon. In the Replace Values dialog box, we enter the value to find as normal and replace with copper, then select OK. It has now replaced those values in our data. Remember, this only affects the data in our query, it does not affect the original data. The options in the Combine group on the Home tab of the ribbon we will discuss in a later lesson. For now, our data looks good. So let's go and select Close and Load to put it into a data model.